Okay, fair enough. So when there's an organization, whether it be Blue Systems, whether it be Tech Paladin, what do these organizations actually do, right? Because I know people will have seen them, or something like Igalia or Collabora. Like, all of these
Mhm.
sort of serve a similar function, but I would imagine a lot of people probably haven't really thought too much about, like, the relationship they have with the projects they get involved in.
Yeah. First of all, our world is so weird.
Mhm.
It is just a very strange thing. But in general, all of these companies are consultancies.
Mhm.
They make contracts with other people who want work done on software, and then they do the work on the software and charge the client some amount of money, and then take that amount of money and then use that to pay the people doing the work, and then pay the people doing the administrative overhead, and then keep some of it as profit to put in their long-term reserves or to pay back to people as bonuses or pay back shareholders if there are shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a super high level overview of how all of this stuff works.
Mhm.
Tech Paladin is no different. We are a consultancy like KDAB, like Agalia. We're a bit of a strange consultancy
Mhm.
because it basically was spun off from Blue Systems, which was itself a consultancy. At the moment, if you go to our website, techpaladinsoftware.com, you can see our customers, our clients. Right now, there's one. we have we have one client, and that is Valve.
Mhm.
And this is basically the client that we inherited from Blue Systems. So in a lot of ways, it was basically a contract and a bunch of people doing that work
Mhm.
who moved from one organization to another.
Right.
And so those are essentially the terms under which we're able to do business. You know, we have a contract with Valve, and they pay us a certain amount of money to do things that they want done. You can imagine why, because Valve, of course, has the Steam Deck, and they ship KDE software. So they logically have a vested interest in that software getting better. So they pay us to do that, and then we do so. We pay the people doing the work, so on and so forth. I say all of this very authoritatively using we with boring corporate language, but to be perfectly honest, we just finished our first month.
Mhm.
So, this is a very, very new endeavor. Like,
Right.
we have been for the last month, and I definitely hope we continue to do so for the foreseeable future. But we're a new small company here.
Mhm.
We're just kind of getting started, and it's been very exciting. I mean, the first month has been really fun. Frankly, it's been cool. It's been fun. In a lot of ways, it hasn't been different at all because we're still basically doing the same work for the same people under the same terms. In some ways, it's been very different because the whole structure around it has changed. It's a bit more nerve wracking
Mhm.
because we're on our own now.
Mhm.
Um, but I've been having a really good time, and I'm not going to put words in people's mouth and try to speak for anybody else. But you're welcome to have other people on and ask them, and
Mhm.
then they can tell you how awful I am and how terrible it is.
Well, regarding it being like a new organization and this inheriting the contract from Valve, how long had Valve and Blue Systems been working together?
I can actually barely remember, but a number of
Yeah, I know
years.
it's I know it's for sure been a while. Like, I've heard about this work for a bit, but I couldn't pin down like how long it had
Yeah.
been.
It's been a while for sure. I honestly can't even remember the exact start date, and even if I could, I'm not sure I could tell you because at
Sure.
that point it would have been internal Blue System stuff. But
Right.
it has been a few years now.
Yeah, at least what
Several
I can
years.
think of publicly, it would be most of the life of the Steam Deck,
Sounds
which
about right.
which I when did the Steam Deck release? I always like to go back and check these things just because it makes me feel older. Like, when did the Steam Deck release? It was like
Also a few years.
yeah,
Time flies. It really does.
2022 it released, apparently. Is that right? Yeah, okay, yeah, that is right. 2022 it released in North America. Geez, it has been a while now, hasn't it?
It has been. It really has been.
So one of the, I don't remember if it's out of the beta channel yet, but I know that they did finally switch over to Plasma 6, which is nice
Yeah.
because it's taken them
It's
quite a
uh
bit.
it's not publicly released yet, but as you were saying in the beta channel.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's nice. It'll be nice to see this part of our work get into that part of the public's eye. I mean, we're all very proud of Plasma 6, of course. I think Plasma 6.3 is pretty great, and yeah, I hope Steam Deck users agree.
Yeah, the initial launch of Plasma 6 was a little bit rough. It obviously nowhere near as rough as, you can go back and look at KD4, right? Like that's a whole different beast. But obviously, going into Plasma 6, there were definitely issues. It wasn't really that. It's just Plasma does a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that don't get tested to the extent they should. It's like a weird combination of 30 different settings. Like, oh, this happens to break because nobody's tested this 1 in a million combination of features.
Yeah. And this is all on us, obviously. We should have much better testing. This is especially true because we use QML, which is all runtime. And one of the curses of software that's interpreted at runtime is that you have more difficulty catching stuff ahead of time. There are ways around this. There's like a QML compiler. I'm definitely in favor of us using this more. But there were a lot of cases where, yeah, like despite how many people working on it, there were so many tiny corners of the system that weren't able to be adequately tested ahead of time that even if things, worked, maybe if they interacted with other things in a different way, they stopped working properly.
Right.
I mean, here's one example I can just think of because it's a bug that was fixed a couple of days ago, so it's actually on my mind. But we actually lost the ability to scroll wallpaper plugin pages. Now, this wasn't a problem because our existing wallpaper plugins that we ship don't need scrollability. Either they have enough settings that they fit on the page, or they include their own internal scroll view because the top part of the page is like non-scrollable settings, then the bottom part is like a scrollable content view. So everything was fine, except when you use a third-party wallpaper plugin that has like 900 settings on it. And then suddenly those 900 settings want a page that's scrollable, and the page wasn't scrollable. So you'd have to like resize the page to see everything. Oops, definitely a bug, definitely our fault. But like we missed it because it literally couldn't be seen without putting third-party content into the system. So like the fact that you can put third-party content into the system essentially acts as a stress test on it.
Right.
So we fixed that recently. Oops.